Right, go on then. We'll move to the next category, which is obviously the bad. So, Yanko, what was your point? By the way, spoiler, this is like a topic that every podcast talk about a million times. But let's see what angle Yanko's going to take. So, what is your bad point?
Yeah, my bad point has been like Astralis the last few months, really. And I'll have a small one to add to that, because Snake is here as well, but that's fine. But to talk about Astralis at first, right, it's like, it really does feel like people always, there's a lot of speculation, but I don't give a fuck. It's like, we're here on the show, like, we can speculate. I'm not on the broadcast, right?
It's fine.
So why would you ever, when you're making like the change, you're bringing Blame F and config, right, and you have Lucky, and you're not letting him up? Like, what's the reasonable explanation for that? Like, he's a young player, obviously inexperienced. What does he need? Well, he needs fucking experience. So at the start of that, at the end of last year, really, like, it's the second part of the season, it's like, just let them play with the op. Like, even if you suck, right?
Yanko, didn't you read it? Didn't you read the report, the interview? He said he came up with the idea. That's what he said.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding, dude. That was total BS.
with a gun in his head, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, that doesn't make any sense, especially because the other guys are not like oppers, it's not like you have a device on the team who doesn't want to op anymore, some dumb shit like that. So you're doing that. There's the reason that comes to your mind first is, well, he's not going to be on the team for much longer. We might have a bit higher chance of winning some games this way, right? Let's try to do that because of like points, ranking, whatnot, all that shit matters, right? And then now things change, like he's back on the op, right? Like, I think they realized what Vitality realized with Kyojin. He's like too inexperienced. He's going to need too much time. He's not a Brocky, he's not a bit, right? He's not someone who is going to be good enough relatively soon that we're not going to be losing games because of him, right? Because if you're Astralis, like, you just pull the plug and say, okay, put it back to Astralis talent. He needs like a year or two more to develop. Get Farlig, who's a little bit more experienced, a little bit better. He's still not Device, right? Or you were just trying like to kind of find a way to bring back Device, which actually does make the most sense out of everything when you see how that roster was being handled. And when you look at the lineup with Device on the team, it's like fucking great, right? Like that would make the most sense. So just how Astralis, not only that lineup, but even all the stuff like going back to when Device left, also kind of not finding a way to keep him on the roster and like kind of make that team work, right? Like, even if you have to give them all a break for 2 or 3 months. I don't know who it was who was talking about it. Maybe even Device himself in the Blast documentary, right? He was saying like, yeah, when Zipex and Glaive took that break, like it really hurt the team, right? Because, we were just playing with stand-ins. It wasn't fun. Maybe we should have all, I think he said something, maybe we should have all taken a break just for a couple of months, right? So I think you look at just how epic that lineup was and that organization was and the achievements that they had and the mismanagement and kind of where they are, right? I mean, they're losing. Their win rate is like something atrocious, like 30% or something they're losing to, and they're not even making it close. Like, and they're just taking turns who's going to have like 3 kills per map. Like Glaive has 2 awful maps, then suddenly he has finally a good map, then Zipex has 4 kills. Like, these are crucial players, right? Like, they're not going to frag the most, but they play crucial positions where you maybe can get 1 kill or 2 kills per round, right? They're going to turn the tide of the round, and you just can't have that happening. And they've never had as long of a period where they're being like kind of having so many bad games. I don't think even we can contribute to it being online or this or that, right? I just think that there's fundamental issues within that team, perhaps even with the way you're approaching the game, right? Maybe there's some clashes there, right? In that sense, so that, and you could tell Glaive, I give props to him for that. He was really honest in the interviews that he was doing, like in the loser interviews. He's just saying like, yeah, like things are not great. We're trying to figure it out, but we're struggling, and we just have to find a way to make it happen, right? And but in reality, even the eye test and everything, it's just not looking great for Astralis right now.
I actually think that my kind of hot take on Astralis is that I think Lucky is becoming the scapegoat for this team in what is a more structural problem for how they play beyond that. I really think that their T sides just have almost like two conflating ideas going on simultaneously, where you see Config sometimes just kind of going out for fights, and it doesn't always feel like he has the most support. You see BlameF kind of just getting into some really weird position on the map somewhere, and all at the same time, it never feels like they know how they want to convert around or positioning it around. Where the old Astralis, you would never even second guess that. You'd see a 2-2 split on nuke from whatever angles they take over. But nowadays it's kind of like, oh, they lost so much control on the map, but BlameF had his little spot that the other person that survived from his default spot just joined up with BlameF, and then BlameF just baits that guy. Like, it's really just kind of hard to watch them play late rounds out. I'll say that what I noticed before when I was watching Lucky's demos early on was that T-side, he would try to even bait Zipnix. Now he's running in a little bit more. I'm happy about that, but he's not very good at it. So I really don't think that this team has, like, there's not a lot of ways that I can see this working with even just a Lucky swap. I really think that you need to get rid of, like, this is the more drastic one, would be probably get rid of BlameF and Lucky, or I think this is more reasonable for recent performance, is get rid of Zipnix and get rid of Lucky.
Now, obviously,
just like handed in like a 3-year contract.
I know. The problem with that is, I agree. Obviously, if we're doing football manager mode, yeah, but just the reality of that contract means that's obviously not the option, is it?
Right. Yeah.
Sadly.
Yeah. I mean, that's. I mean, I'm just saying that would be.
Yeah,
you need to switch. You need to switch multiple things though right now, because I think that on their T side, the initiative takers are Glaive and Config, but then you have like almost 3 guys who want to be the last man alive closer, and I think that's, like, we saw what happened with Complexity when they had JKS and Coldzera and BlameF. Like, it's the same thing is happening again.
Sure. This was so hard to watch, but I'll give you, Duncan, I'll give you the little like extra asterisk for this topic, right? Another bad one is Maui Snake's take that Big is going to be a top 5 team.
Do you know what I find weird about that?
But he's like, I don't know if he's like half German or what, but look at the teams we already talked about.
No, I know, exactly, yeah.
We talked about Navi, Vitality, G2,
exactly.
FaZe. So if you're going to be top 5, Big has to be like after those 4 teams.
Okay.
So
that's actually my take, by the way.
They have to be better than VP. They have to be better than, well, OG.
Everyone, Gambit. There's a million teams, mate.
Gambit and Heroic.
Yeah, exactly.
They have to be better than them, right? It's like
the joke I have is this. If anything, it's not even that I need you to tell me why Big's going to be. It's why are they going to be better than like 8 of those teams? That's my problem, most things. Like, I get the premise. Here's the thing. If you just mean they should be better than they look now, and they should be way better, appropriate to the level of Big last year, I'm with you. But I don't even get where the angle is. How is the angle that they could be top 5 though? What am we missing here?
So the angle to open this one up and kind of clarify my point on it is that I think that they will touch the top 5 ranking on HLTV.
Just like 1-7. Okay. This has already become so tenuous. I know. Yeah. Come on, all right.
But I also do think that you can look at a couple of the lineups that are ahead of them right now, and I think there's potential for drop off. I think that there's Entropic that should fall. They should fall. Heroic has been a
That's
weirdly
impossible.
Yeah, I think they've been weirdly shaky too. Astralis, that they should fall too. NIP should fall. I think then you kind of actually start getting into top 7 territory with them, and it's like, can they beat anybody in that position, or can they beat FaZe? And I think that's when it gets a little bit dicey. But that's why I say, like, they can touch the top 5, because you just need one BO3 victory over one of these teams and knock them out early of a tournament. You get a couple more points, and that's just how the HLTV ranking works. But I actually think that they're solid enough to do that. They're going to put themselves in enough positions with their partner statuses to do it.
They can touch the top 5 by tickling their balls while the top 5 are skull fucking them.
There you go. Okay. Well, there we go. Let's leave it at that. I think he's summarised it very well. Right. Well, this then, because here's what I would say about the Astralis angle. Right. My main problem is this. Obviously, we've known they've had Lucky in the team for ages at this point in time. It's been months and months and months and months. Remember, it was before, obviously, the whole thing with Bobski and the Kovacevicd. They've had Lucky in for ages now. So my problem is this. I've just been watching the way the other Astralis members talk about Lucky and seem to behave. And this is what doesn't add up, dude. Is I'm almost with you on the angle of, like, this almost looks as though they were just preparing the team so that Device could just walk back in at the end of last year, and then everything. It was like, we didn't give him all that. Like, we just kept, we got everyone else comfortable, and they're all comfortable. Right, you could come in now, because it doesn't make sense. Like, think about this, right? Think about the 2 main people in Astralis who went out of their way publicly to defend Lucky. It was Dupree and Zonic, who already knew they were leaving the team. By the way, spoiler, even at the time they made those statements publicly, when he was their teammate, they were already having all the negotiations with the other teams. It was already known, essentially. It just depends which team they go to, but they're going to be going from Astralis. That's what I'd already heard. So that's very suspicious that no one in the team ever seems to big him up. If you ever noticed, right, the only time they mention Lacy is when people directly ask them in interviews just to bring his name up. Like, it'd be awkward not to say anything at that point in time. And then what they do is they just do the whole, like, he is good, or like, he's a young guy, or like, it's all the whack. Well, here's the problem, right? If you actually really do buy into it, as in, let's say you imagine someone like Glaive, you'd hope they at least included him in the plans of what they wanted to do, right? Oh yeah, we're going to sign you and Zipnix, like, we're not certain on the others yet, but we might end up saying with Lacy, maybe he'll develop, right? You'd at least figure he must be in the plans. Well, my problem is this: I don't get the vibe that people like Glaive actually necessarily, I've never even got any impression from him at all he thinks he's a good player or that there's any talent there. And this is why it's weird. I'll give you the example. When Yanko in FaZe Clan, they had to bring in Brokey completely out of nowhere, just out of FPL, they never shut the fuck up for like 6 months talking about him. Every interview, people would bring him up and be, and he's actually, watch what this guy's doing, and he's quite good to impress people. Because obviously, remember, the whole premise was people thought, right, he's going to come in and he's going to be like BMAS, he'll be there for like a month and then you'll replace him with someone else. But like, and so the team was essentially prepping everyone for like, no, this guy's just going to be in our team from now on. They don't even seem to do that with Lacy, dude. I don't even buy that the players sort of are on board with this, because they don't have like that unified mentality you normally do, where you defend the guy that we all think should be cut.
Yeah, I think the problem is like when I first saw him in Pro League, right? Like he's not blowing your mind, but he's good. Like he's like doing the correct things. Like he was hitting a good percentage of his shots, right? And you could tell that in some time he could get really good, and then LAN comes in, he falls off a little bit. But yeah, he's not like mine, but he's not a Monesi, right? Which is why you were struggling to understand the move, because both Astralis and G2, at least on paper, have the same rest of the team where they have to win now. Like they don't have time to develop a player. So you do have to, like, maybe take a shot with a player like Monesi, right? Because there's not too many players that you can get, and his ceiling is so high that you're feeling like taking that gamble, right? Like if he is 70% of what we expect him to be, right? Like then that's good enough for us to win. And that's why it was strange for Astralis, because Lacy wasn't that sort of a player. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't anything where you're looking at it and like, oh yeah, this guy can be like really, really insane. Like he's showing flashes here and there. He was just like solid and fell off a little bit and got a little bit better. So that's why like it was kind of strange.
And then I would just say on this lineup in general, like probably the most underwhelming thing about this team is if you covered the nameplates, I would never even know Glaive was on this team, mate. Like what about the way they play looks like a Glaive Counter-Strike team? Like this is the part of the issue. He doesn't have the pieces to do anything with, as far as I can tell. Like he's got essentially this is like if you had someone who before this had every tool in the arsenal. Now he has just an axe. That's it. He has an axe. If the axe works, the axe works. He can't be doing any like fencing techniques or some sort of advanced shit. Like he can't do like guerrilla running time. You just has an axe, he has to swing it at you, and if he can hit you, he can hit you, because at the moment config's fucking terrible. And not always in terms of impact that he does, you see in the game he's doing stuff, but he can't carry the game right now, and so all it is just blame F. Here's the thing, blame F's style in necessitates you're always going to get some empty kills, but like at least he's fragging, at least he's doing that. So I think the team's a total mess, mate. I don't know why anyone has it. Like, I don't even really see people defend him anymore, mate. Is there any analysts in the world that actually trying to like bring this team up? It seems like everyone's just awkwardly trying to not talk about him if they don't like him,
But you said that config is a big one for me, because there was people out there like who were saying, oh yeah, this is the most skilled Danish player.
For sure.
In my mind, right? And I'm like, well, where's that been? Like, yeah, he has a good tournament every 4 or 5 tournaments. And even though, then someone will say, yeah, but he's very aggressive. He's not going to have that great stats. Well, I mean, hey, Nico is a bad example. But, Iskander is an aggressive player who's like really consistent, right? Like, I don't put config, I don't want to say like anywhere near, but for me, Iskander is the better, more consistent player who's doing more for his team and has been doing for a while now, right? Like you have a lot of those players like on different teams where it's like, I mean, you guys are putting it, he's like a top 5 rifler in the world, right? Like I'm really not seeing that. And also consistency is key. Like I don't care if you have 35 kills one game, if you're going to have 7 kills the next game. Like I can't win like that. Like, you have to be able to do it more often.
One last thing I would say as well as this, because I can actually tell you, I literally told Configs himself this exact piece of advice. And here's the sad news. He initially took my advice and I believe did turn down the initial offer, but obviously in the end he took the offer. My advice went like this. I said, look, mate, I get, especially for him, because obviously famously he did have that offer to Astralis. He didn't take it. And like, you know, everyone goes like Kirby, oh, I bet Kirby regrets not staying. Even Kirby knows he wouldn't have won all that. The difference is if you're Config, you do go, fuck, maybe I could have done sort of like what Magus did, but in Master, and maybe we would have won. So he's the one who really thinks like I should have just fucking said something different in that interview 3 years ago. So the problem is, I told him this. I said that the problem is, oh mate, don't use that as your reason to join the team now, because you're going to think you're rewinding the clock and you're getting to play in Astralis. And I was like, but you won't. It's not. You're not going to be in that Astralis though. You're going to be in this Astralis. And I even told him at the time, dude, be careful which Astralis players stay. And obviously, I meant at least keep like fucking one of Device and Debris. Like you got to have Ziglaver. I never meant keep Glaver. Then Zipnix was just like, got this giant bag of money, guys. That's what all you got at this point in time. Like, you're not in Astralis, dude. You're in some whack team called Astralis 4 years later.
Well, a big part of that is you did mention all the players, but Zonic is a massive part of that. You could you could see how like emotional Apex was when they played their last game. Like he was losing. Like the one coach that can replace Extaz, who for me is an awesome coach, is arguably just Zonic, right? So they got the one guy who could do it. And you know, who did Glaive get? Like, he got A, which I don't think we have enough information as of right now to really judge him whether he's good or not good, right? Like, obviously, it's impossible to fill Zonic's shoes, the same as it was impossible to fill Device's shoes. So I agree with you 100%. Like, you didn't join the Astralis, you joined the Astralis org, but the lay of the land is way, way different than what you would have hoped for.
Config's going through that thing where you have a crush on a girl like 10 years ago, and then like she gets really fat, but you still kind of like hold on to the idea that she was once hot, and if I can have her that one time, it might be good. But then you realize like she's even had like more trauma since that time too, and she's just awful. So that's
basically Config's trying to pick up the girl he didn't have the guts to talk to in high school, but she's just a waffle waitress now with 4 kids. And the joke is, Config, you could do better now, mate. You know, you've actually got like that little gig at the dealership going. Just meet a normal girl, mate. You don't need to let it go. She's done. Zipnix is washed, mate. She's busted. I mean, there's no Botox that can save Zipnix. I'll tell you that right now. So. Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.